I saw Oma return, but she wasn't the same. When she was just a child, Oma lost her parents. Her father remarried quickly, bringing Ojugo into the house. From the moment she arrived, Ojugo treated Oma like dirt. She made her do all the chores, beat her over the smallest mistakes, and starved her while her own children ate well. I was their neighbor, and I watched everything. The villagers knew, but Ojugo was clever. She acted sweet in front of others, hiding her cruelty behind a fake smile. But the bruises on Oma's arms and the hollow look in her eyes told the truth. Years went by, and Oma grew into a beautiful young woman, despite the abuse. People noticed her, but Ojugo chased them away, saying she was cursed. No one dared to help, fearing Ojugo's sharp tongue and lies. Then one day, Oma vanished. Some said she ran away, others whispered that Ojugo finally went too far. But no one knew for sure. Weeks turned into months, and we all thought Oma was gone for good. But then, Oma returned. She came back in a fine carriage, wearing clothes that shone like the sun. She was married to the prince himself, now the queen of the village. Ojugo's mouth dropped when she saw her. She didn't recognize the girl she had tormented, but I did. Oma's face was different, calm, yet there was something cold in her eyes. The villagers gathered around to see the queen, but Oma didn't look at them. She walked straight to Ojugo's house, her steps firm, her voice steady. She demanded to see her stepmother. Ojugo came out, trembling, trying to bow and smile, but Oma's gaze froze her in place. "Do you remember me, Ojugo?" Oma asked. Her voice was soft, but the weight behind it was heavy. Ojugo stammered, trying to act like she didn't know what Oma was talking about, but everyone could see the fear in her eyes. Oma leaned in close and whispered something in Ojugo's ear. The next moment, Ojugo dropped to the ground, clutching her chest, gasping for air. Oma stepped back, her expression unchanged, and turned to leave. The prince's guards followed her as she walked away, leaving Ojugo writhing on the ground. No one moved to help her. The villagers just watched, too afraid to intervene. Ojugo died that night. Some say it was a heart attack, others claim it was Oma's curse, a final act of revenge. But whatever it was, the village was never the same after that. Oma lives in the palace now, and the villagers praise her as a queen. But those of us who knew her before, who saw what she endured, we know there's something dark behind her rise to power. We don't speak of it, not out loud. But when the wind howls at night, I think about Ojugo's last moments and the look in Oma's eyes. And I wonder if the past ever truly lets go. The days after Ojugo's death were strange. People whispered about the queen, wondering if they should fear her or admire her. Some said Oma had learned powerful magic during the time she was gone. Others believed the prince was under some kind of spell, bewitched by her beauty and mystery. No one dared speak ill of her openly, but the story spread like wildfire, especially after what happened to Ojugo. Not long after the funeral, strange things began to happen. Ojugo's children, who once paraded around the village with arrogance, started acting differently. They stopped speaking, their faces pale and gaunt as if they were constantly sick. They would wander into the forest at night, their eyes blank, their bodies moving as if controlled by something unseen. People said they heard them crying out in the darkness, but no one dared go after them. One by one, Ojugo's children vanished, disappearing into the forest. The villagers searched, but they found nothing, no tracks, no bodies, just empty silence. Some said it was the spirit claiming them, others believed it was Oma's doing, a punishment for the years of torment. Oma, now queen, said nothing about the disappearances. She ruled with grace, but there was always a shadow behind her eyes, something cold and distant that made even the bravest men shiver. The prince, once lively and full of laughter, became quieter too, his gaze often lost in thought. Life in the village went on, but the fear lingered. The villagers kept their distance from the palace, speaking only when necessary, always with respect and caution. They knew Oma had suffered, but what they didn't know, what they feared the most, was what she had become. As the years passed, the stories of Queen Oma grew darker. Some claimed she could speak to the dead, others that she could control the winds and the rain. But the truth was simpler and more terrifying. Oma was a woman who had faced the worst, survived, and returned with a strength no one could understand. And in the dead of night, when the village was silent and the forest was still, some swore they could hear Ojugo's voice, faint and pleading, calling out for mercy that would never come.